that were using paper ballots alone. In other words, in precincts that used paper ballots, there was no discrepancy between the exit polls and the official count. If we had access to this withheld precinct-level data, we would be able to investigate whether the size of the exit poll discrepancy correlates with the voting technology used. A Zogby interactive poll taken 1 month after the election revealed that 28% of Americans thought that questions about the accuracy of the official count in the election were, quote, unquote, very valid. And another 14% thought concerns were somewhat valid, quote, unquote. In other words, 42% of Americans had immediate concerns about what happened in 2004. As we detail in our book, Was the 2004 Election Stolen? For these reasons and more, it is imperative that our newspapers of record, as well as our governmental oversight bodies, now investigate the question people continue to ask. Was the 2004 election stolen? Thank you.
Thank you. Co-author of Was the 2004 Presidential Election Stolen? Stephen F. Freeman holds a PhD from MIT's Sloan School of Management and an MS in Social System Science from the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School. Since 2000, he has held several academic positions at the University of Pennsylvania, where he currently serves as visiting scholar and a member of the teaching faculty of the Graduate Program of Organizational Dynamics in the School of Arts and Sciences. In addition to his regular courses, he teaches workshops for graduate students on research methods in survey design, a domain that includes polling. He's also taught on the faculty at the Wharton School and the Universidad de San Andreas in Argentina and the Central American Institute of Business Administration in Costa Rica, where he has conducted management courses for private and public sector leaders and faculty workshops on research methods. He is the recipient of 4 National Research Awards for Outstanding Scholarship from the Academy of Management. Out of all that busyness, we're glad you had time to come here today. Stephen Freeman.
Thank you. An exit poll is an anonymous questionnaire of voters as they leave the polling place. Unlike a pre-election telephone poll, it is not a prediction about what potential voters might do in the future, but a record of what actual voters just have done. Exit poll results will not be distorted by the fact that 10% of the population don't use landline telephones, or by pollster predictions about who might show up on election day, or by voters who change their minds or decide in the final days. Rather, exit polls are a record of how real voters actually cast their ballots. Accordingly, exit polls are used around the world to verify the integrity of elections. Discrepancies between exit polls and the official count usually are attributed to vote fraud and have been used to successfully overturn elections, most recently in Ukraine. Election integrity can be verified around the world because elsewhere around the world, exit poll data is made readily available and widely reported. Here in the U.S., however, results are as secretive as the voting systems they are designed to track. The media consortium that control the U.S. exit polls have not reported their results and have refused to share the data. Despite the secrecy, we have been able to distill some key statistics about exit poll results in the 2004 election. Most important is that nationwide, there was a 7 percentage point disparity between how voters reported casting their ballots and the official results in those same precincts. If the votes had been counted as voters said they cast them, Bush would not have won by 3 million votes, but rather lost by 6 million. Kerry would have won Ohio, New Mexico, Nevada, and probably Florida as well. This exit poll discrepancy is now an undisputed fact. The question then becomes, what caused it? Those who defend the election must say that Bush voters must have participated in the polls at a far lower rate than Kerry voters did. This presumption, though, has never been substantiated by any data or even coherent theory. In fact, the data that has been made available by the pollsters not only fail to validate this presumption, They undermine it entirely. All indicators on poll participation suggest lower, not lower, but slightly higher response rates among Bush voters. For example, if Bush voters were responding at lower rates, then response rates should be lower in precincts where Bush voters predominate. But the opposite is true. Response rates in Bush precincts are slightly higher, not lower, than in Kerry precincts. Whereas we could find no evidence regarding lower participation of Bush voters, we observed more than a dozen indicators of a corrupted count. I'll mention just two of them here. First, consider, if you are going to steal an election, you go after votes most vigorously where they are most needed. In this case, that's the 11 swing states where the election was close. There's no reason why exit polls should be more or less accurate in these states than in others, but the discrepancy is significantly higher in the swing states than other states, and significantly higher yet in the three critical battleground states of Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Florida. Second, if fraud was afoot, it would also make sense that the president's men would steal votes in their strongholds, where they control the machinery of government and few people are in a position to challenge the results. Lo and behold, we learned that in those precincts where Bush won 80% of the vote or more, the average disparity between the exit poll results and the official count was a whopping 10 percentage points. In these Bush strongholds, Kerry received only about 2/3 of the vote that voters said they cast for them. Indeed, the only conclusion consistent with the known facts about the 2004 election is that it was stolen, and that all the institutions we hope would prevent or at least alert us, the media, the Democratic Party, and professional analysts have failed and continue to fail us. There's really no way to overstate the importance of losing the vote. Without it, we are powerless to remove from office those who abuse power and thus vulnerable to any abuse. There's much work to be done to regain the franchise. The ability to vote someone out of office is real power, and real power is never easily conceded or easily won. Regaining this power will be a long, uncertain process, but the first steps are clear. We begin by recognizing the facts and building anew our institutions, by searching out truth through thoughtful reading and thinking for ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Peniel, by the way, could I request that people turn off their cell phones? It really interrupts people's concentration and focus on the show. So if you could please do me that favor, and remember to turn it back on when you leave. Peniel Joseph, who's the author of this book, Waiting Till the Midnight Hour, A Narrative History of Black Power in America, is a professor in the Department of African Studies at SUNY Stony Brook. He's the recipient of fellowships from the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars and the Ford Foundation. His work has appeared in Souls, Newfound Formations, and The Black Scholar, and he is editor of the forthcoming anthology entitled The Black Power Movement, Rethinking the Civil Rights, Black Power Era. He lives in Brooklyn, New York, Brooklyn in the house. He can be reached online at www.panieljoseph.com. Welcome to the panel, Peniel Joseph.
Okay, I'm going to be brief in my comments because we have a large panel here. I'm going to come at this question of democracy and whether the election was stolen in 2004 from a historical perspective, because that's my training. I'm a historian. When we think about democracy in the United States, we should look at those who have voted for the least amount of time and been here for really the longest, and that's the African American vote or the black vote. And I want to connect this whole notion of talking about democracy and really how certain people even felt surprised at 2000 and 2004 with the historic disfranchisement of African Americans. And really, when we think about the fact that the Voting Rights Act is currently under renewal, really to see what were civil rights and really black power activists in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s after. Why did civil rights activists really risk life and limb to pursue democratic traditions that even the federal government and certainly at the local level were not deemed credible enough? Who are the people who really believe in democracy, a real black American democratic tradition? And I think that when you talk about the Black Power movement and people like Stokely Carmichael, people like Malcolm X, people like the Black Panthers, it might seem like an unusual segue into a discussion of democracy, but I think that's because people have been misled vis-a-vis the historical record. When we think about that Black Power movement and activists like Malcolm X and activists like Stokely Carmichael, who actually goes from being a civil rights militant in the Deep South to a Black Power revolutionary who's trekking in the Sierra Maestra with Fidel Castro and discussing Pan-Africanism with Kwame Nkrumah in 1967, what we see are die-hard, radical, democratic activists who really feel betrayed by America's lack of what? Its lack of willingness to live up to its democratic ideals. Okay, so when we think about 2000 and 2004, at least in the short term, we have to look back at the 1960s and say, well, did the right to vote, was the right to vote really consummated after the 1960s? Why did Stokely Carmichael have to lead a Black Panther Party in Lowndes County, Alabama, to get black people the right to vote in the rural South? The Meredith March Against Fear in 1966. Why did James Meredith start a somewhat quixotic march and was shot, and Dr. King and Carmichael come and lead a march for democracy, and that's where Stokely Carmichael yells, Black Power, June 16th, 1966. So what we see is that when we talk about the civil rights movement and we talk about Black Power, what we're talking about, both movements, even though there's some paradoxes there, are talking about radical democracy. Certainly Dr. King in the April 4th, 1967 Riverside Address is talking about radical democracy. He's talking about anti-war rhetoric, but he's talking about moving the United States from militarism and paying lip service to democracy to really discussing the machinery of democracy and having one person, one vote, and having the people be able to decide the way in which the country is going to go. So I'll close by saying, when we're talking about this 2000 and 2004 election, what we have to look at is really the processes of democracy in the 20th century. Who's had the right to vote and who hasn't? We really have recently been discussing the crisis of black men, whether it's Bill Cosby, Juan Williams, Michael Eric Dyson. One of the things that we've lost is the origin story of how we even got the right to vote. And that origin story is of black men and women and sometimes heroic white activists and allies really dying and bleeding for democracy. If you look at the documentary series Eyes on the Prize, you see the Reverend C.T. Vivian receive a punch in the face from a police officer in the early 1960s, and he's telling white segregationists and white racists who are cheering him that we bleed for democracy. And that's what African Americans have done historically. So we have to think about 2000 and 2004 as an extension of a lack of democratic principles that have haunted and plagued the United States. And the heroes of this story are African Americans and their allies who uphold a bigger, more vigorous democratic tradition than even elected officials and even the government and even local people who pay lip service to democracy, who pay lip service to patriotism, but don't know what actual democratic meaning and principle is. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg Palast, author of Armed Madhouse, Who's Afraid of Osama Wolf, and other phrases, speaks truth to power the only way you can, by letting the facts speak for themselves. Get the straight story on what today's self-appointed masters of the universe have in store for you. It says here he's a cross between Sam Spade and Sherlock Holmes, that by Jim Hightower. Greg Palast turned his skills to journalism after 2 decades as a top investigator of corporate fraud and racketeering. A persona non grata in the United States, Palast's reports have been exiled to the BBC, top current affairs show Newsnight. and England's Guardian newspaper. He is a patron of the Trinity College Philosophical Society, an honor previously held by Jonathan Swift and Oscar Wilde. Ladies and gentlemen, Greg Palast.
Hey, thanks, Lee. Okay, let's church here. Now, in November 2004, I wrote a report for the Guardian papers of Britain and for In These Times in the U.S., put on BBC, a story called Kerry Won, but he won't get inaugurated. The New York Times called me up and said, we're investigating the 2004 race, and we want to get the facts on this. And I said, great, we have big file cabinets about what happened in that race. And the Times said, well, we have two questions. Question one, are you a sore loser? And question two, are you a conspiracy nut? Okay. There was no third question. That was the end of the investigation. Let me explain. I'll tell you exactly what happened to those missing votes. The difference between the exit polls. In fact, what Steve was talking about, first speakers, was this. Here's the exit polls from CNN on CNN's balls at 11 a.m., 1 a.m., election night, 2004. Kerry wins among males in Ohio 51 to 49%, but among females, Kerry wins 53% to 47%. Okay, class, what's the third sex that put Bush over? I'll tell you, it's the missing votes. In 2004, the official figure, 3,600,830 ballots were cast and never counted, okay? How'd that happen, okay? Whose ballots are cast and not counted? They call them spoiled. Let me ask you, whose ballots are spoiled? How do you spoil a vote? You leave them out of the fridge? No. Bad voting machines. Who gets the bad voting machines? I went into the spoilage dumpster. Me and statisticians from Harvard and the Civil Rights Commission, and we came up, we stacked up the white precinct votes that were spoiled, and then we stacked up the black precinct votes that were spoiled. We got on the ladder and stacked them up. Okay? This is an illustration from our madhouse. Little white lozenges, white spoiled votes, the big, long black stick, that's black spoiled. Let me tell you something about American democracy that you didn't learn in civics class. Of the 3.5 million ballots cast and not counted, if you are African American, the chance your ballot will spoil is 900% higher than if you are a white voter. If you're Hispanic, 500% higher than if you're a white voter. If you're Native American, and this changed the election in New Mexico, 2,000% higher than if you're a pale face, okay? You do the arithmetic. If you know a little algebra, 3.5 million votes in the spoilage dumpster. Look at that racial breakdown, U.S. demographics. 88%, almost 9 out of 10 ballots which are cast and not counted in the United States of America are cast by voters of color. Not Ukraine, not Uganda, okay? Let's talk about this. The United States, we may have, through the Voting Rights Act, earned universal right to vote. But what we have is an apartheid vote counting system. Let's talk about that, okay? Now, how do we end up with 3.5 million votes cast and not counted? Okay, we had spoilage, bad machines, right? That's a lot of it. But there were also, in this election, because the number almost doubled from 2000, 2 million ballots cast and not counted because they were rejected. Now, what was that all about, all right? Let me take you back to the 2000 election. I'm the reporter that started wondering why all these black folk were coming before the TV cameras in Florida, my television station in BBC, saying, oh, by the way, in case you're wondering, in British Broadcasting Corporation, we allow African Americans on camera who aren't criminals. You may be wondering. We're asking black people, they said, my name wasn't on the voter rolls. So conspiracy nut that I am, I thought, well, maybe they've got some type of special computer program to aim for and wipe out black voters. And sure enough, I got 2 computer disks out of Catherine Harris's office. They were supposedly the list of felons, criminals, 94,000 of them who were not allowed to vote in Florida, so their names were scrubbed off. I went through the list, and right next to each name it said either BLA or WHI. The race was listed, and most of the people on that list, 97% of them, were guilty of nothing more than voting while black. And that was the election of 2000. I tried to broadcast that, and I could not get that on the American airwaves. Okay, that was page 1 news, planet-wide, not here. Go to 2004. They did it again. Okay, they didn't tell you this. April 2004, Jeb Bush personally orders a new purge. Okay, including such, he said, this time we did it right when we caught him. He said, and I said, yeah, right, we cracked the list, including such criminals as Bernice Kynes, who was convicted of a felony in July 31st, 2009. They did it again, okay? But between 2000 and 2004, the Black Caucus, they saw my reports. Corin Brown marched to the House of Representatives, said this was a coup d'etat. And for telling the truth, she was censored, but they passed a law that said that if you're scrubbed, if you're challenged, you still get a ballot, a provisional ballot, okay? Under the Help America Vote Act, which George Bush signed. As soon as George Bush tells us he's going to help Americans vote, I get a little bit nervous. You know? So let me tell you what happened. Election day 2004, 3 million people were challenged and shunted to provisional ballots. Provisional back of the bus ballots. And here's the deal. The Black Caucus got the right to have, for everyone to get a ballot. But 1.1 million of those ballots were strategically thrown out almost entirely from precincts majority African American, Hispanic, or Native American. Okay? You won the right to get that provisional ballot, but there's nothing in the law that says the ballot has to be counted. Okay? And how did you end up with so many challenges? I didn't know until I got this in my email, my inbox at georgewbush.org. By the way, for $35 you can get a domain name. They made a mistake. GeorgeWBush.com, the top guys were passing information between each other about something called caging lists. They misaddressed one, and whoosh, 50 emails and hundreds of these sheets came through our office. What were these? Names of voters. What were these names of voters? What were they up to? What is a caging list? Got another caging list, another. Just 70,000 in one state alone. We went to the Republican Party headquarters and said, what are these names? On BBC television. It's in our madhouse. You can get this sheet. They said, donor lists. I showed them a sheet. You mean all these guys from the Jacksonville State Street Rescue Mission for the Homeless? Bush Cheney donors, huh? Try again. It was a challenge sheet. Why didn't they fess up? Because it's against the law to target African American voters. It's against a law called the Voting Rights Act, which George Bush signed with a grin and took the applause at the NAACP convention this week, not telling them something about the fine print. You've got the law. You've got the law, but we enforce it. Or don't. It was against the law. And you know who else saw this sheet right here? Every single name on it. Let me tell you. Where it's the address. And what they were challenging voters on was suspect addresses. Suspect addresses. Okay, here's the suspect address. Joseph Brinkley, Naval Air Station. David Burns, Naval Air Station. Eric Brown, Naval Air Station. Jacksonville, Florida. What they were doing, the Republican Party, is targeting African American soldiers to challenge their vote. Why was their address suspect? Well, we have our investigator here, Lenny Eckert. She spent days and nights calling these people. What do we find? People like Randy Prowse. He was not home. His address was indeed suspect. Why isn't Randy home? Mrs. Prowse has said, because he's been shipped overseas by the president. What they did was they sent first-class letters to these African-American soldiers that were shipped overseas saying, do not forward to Germany or to Baghdad. When the letters came back, they went to the Republican National Committee, top guys, went to the voting authorities and said, suspect address. See, it says undeliverable. In other words, go to Baghdad, lose your vote. 1.1 million provisional ballots cast and not counted. 3 million voters challenged in the largest racial attack since the days of Jim Crow. Now, I'm telling you right now, I've just told you about how they stole 2000. I've just told you, in summary, how they began to steal, how they took away 2004. Now I'm going to tell you something else. Gore won, Kerry won, get over it. Because right now, while we sit here, they are taking 2008. Thank you.
Thank you. I've met Paul Robeson a few times, and Paul Robeson Jr., that is. I'm not that old. Paul Robeson Jr. a few times, and our conversations were always full of knowledge far beyond what I had. And I sometimes think of myself as kind of knowledgeable guy. Paul Robeson Jr. is the author of this book, A Black Way of Seeing, which even in this book there are some allusions to the stolen elections and what that means specifically to African Americans and what it says specifically to African Americans. He's the author of Paul Robeson Jr. Speaks to America, The Politics of Multiculturalism, and The Undiscovered Paul Robeson, An Artist's Journey. An esteemed cultural critic, he has lectured across the United States and has appeared on radio and television programs across the globe. Son of the legendary Paul Robeson, he served for more than 20 years as his father's close aide and personal representative. He lives with his wife in New York City, and I will add that he succeeds his father in the national scene very well. Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Robeson Jr.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I don't know whether I deserve all that, but I'll do my best. I want to say that Brother Pallas just hit one of the nails on the head. I want to second his motion because in my appendix, I feel that I have proved beyond a reasonable doubt that both the 2000 and 2004 elections were stolen. And I also agree with his conclusion that the machinery is in place to steal 2006, the congressional elections, and 2008. Same machinery, same principles. In my view, simple calculations from verified numbers and comparison of unchallengeable numbers